Hello everyone, Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense. Thank you for watching. I have another Monday quarterback video for you. I'm going to play this video and talk about things that are going on and better explain what's going on and talk about things that I think that are being done right and or done wrong. Without further ado, here we go.
This briefing will provide information about an officer-involved shooting involving members of the New York City Police Department. You will see relevant video footage and other available evidence that will allow you to gain a better understanding of what this
we'll skip in the beginning because it's a bunch of babble.
Viewer discretion is advised, especially for young children and sensitive viewers.
That is a big ass fucking knife. Like, that son of a bitch is huge. Yeah, like, that's definitely going to cause some damage. Now, this one's a little bit on the shorter side, I guess you could say. It's going to cause a lot of damage. A box cutter, where the blade, and if you look at this ruler here, on a box cutter, the blade at most only comes out an inch. Just an inch at most. Depending on the design and everything, it could be about maybe half an inch of blade that sticks out from a box cutter. You got to keep in mind, 4 fucking airplanes were taken over by dudes with box cutters. 2 crashed into World Trade Center, 1 crashed into the Pentagon, and the other, because the people on board decided to fight, crashed out in the field. But those planes were taken over by dudes with box cutters, and the fucking blades on those things don't come out very far. Come out, like I said, maybe an inch at most, maybe half an inch. You can cause a lot of damage with a box cutter. So even a knife with the blade being this small, realistically, so the tip is right here at the half, this part close to half. So you're looking at maybe a 3-inch blade. A little bit over 3 inch. 3 inches. Hey boys, 3 inches can do a lot, right? Yeah, that'll fucking kill you in a heartbeat. Literally. Even something as small as a Swiss Army knife. A rinky-dink Swiss Army knife is deadly. This notion that people say, oh, it's just a knife, or dismiss that a knife is not capable of doing a lot of damage is it's a dangerous mindset to have. People say, oh, don't bring a knife to a gunfight. I know some people who will kill your ass really fucking quick with a knife, even if you have 2 guns on you. There is, within the training industry for firearms, particularly within law enforcement, you will hear something about 21 feet in regards to a person with a knife and them being able to close the distance of 21 feet and be on top of a person with a gun and being able to stab them before that person can draw their gun, get good sights on target, and put incapacitating rounds on target. A lot of people call this the 21-foot rule. It is the Tueler drill. A peace officer, I forget where he's from, by the name of, I think his name is Jim Tueler. He did a study, and in the study, he was able to determine that, on average, a person can close the distance of 21 feet and get on top of a person or right up to them with a knife before that person could ever draw their gun and get it on target. And this, mind you, was being done with people who knew what was coming. The person with the holstered gun knew at the beginning of this that their task was to pull their fucking training gun and get it on target before the person with the knife got on them. Or to how if they did it where they were back to back and one started running and then the other one drew and fired target, they knew that the minute it was go time that they were to get their gun out and get it on target and get good incapacitating hits on that target. They knew that was their task. They knew they were on the clock, so to speak. In real life, you're not going to know for sure exactly if someone's coming at you. So realistically, that could be a lot different. Someone can close an even further distance and get on top of your ass before you're ever able to respond adequately. So that 21 foot, for most people, fuck, that could be 50 feet. Especially depending on how you're carrying. So these tests were done with officers wearing duty gear and outside the waistband holster. What about concealed? Excuse me. What about concealed carry? Having to work through the garments and get the gun out. That's going to add time to your draw time. So if you're starting off at 21 feet between you and the bad guy, and you've got an inside the waistband holster, doesn't matter if it's appendix or 6 o'clock, whatever, and you got concealment garment over. If it's summertime, that's less garments to go through. If it's wintertime, you got a lot more shit to deal with, right? That 21 foot being it concealed, you're a meat market at that point. You're going to have meat cut selections being taken out of you and put on display before you ever know what the fuck's going on. Something as small as this will definitely unalive you. So don't ever discount a knife and think, oh, well, I got a gun. I can beat them. No. There's quite a few people out there who had a gun and they lost a fight to someone with a knife. Knives are extremely dangerous. You got to think. Edged weapons is something that humans have been using for quite a while. Ever since we figured out how to sharpen things with a rock, we've been using pointy sticks to catch game and unalive other humans. So edge weapons have been doing a job for a long time. Don't ever discredit an edged weapon or think that it's less than, because it's not. In the right hands, In the right hands, you say goodbye. All right, so busy street here. There, I was gonna say, yeah. So over in here, it appears to be a like a divider of sorts in between these two streets right here. So you got I don't know what the heading on this is. This is we going north or south for all I know, but you have traffic going one direction and traffic going the other. Sidewalk here, and there's sidewalks over there, and it looks like this is probably residential structures, like apartments or something like that, would be my best guess. And then you have some commercial properties down here. The guy's going to be in this vehicle right here, that's in the middle of the roadway here. So he at least throws on his caution lights on the vehicle. I mean, he had the forethought to do that. Not that it, makes a big difference or anything, but even from this camera angle, like you could see the reflection of light. Excuse me. You can see the reflection of light coming off that blade. And I'll rewind it a few seconds and just watch right there. Look at that damn thing. Like literally, like this dude could, depending on a person's body size, this dude could literally ram this thing through the front of someone's body, and the tip would be coming out the back of their torso. If they're small enough. That's a big ass knife. Now, what's interesting is his clothing. He appears to be wearing a uniform of some sort. There appears to be arm patches on there. Appears to be what looks like a badge on the left chest area. I'll back it up even more so we can see him again. Appears to be a badge, and it looks like maybe he's wearing like an ID card on a little lanyard thing that's clipped to his shirt. And then on the back of his shirt, there appears to be some type of patch or embroidery on the back. So I don't know what kind of uniform he's wearing. I tried to do some searches for this guy, and the Google searches I did were NYPD Richard Paris, and then I did Richard Paris New York City. Found articles about the incident and everything, but I could not find anything that talked about like what he does, what uniform he's wearing. Now, I did not go through every single article that popped up in the result. I did a cursory search through the very first few articles and could not find anything in relation to what he's wearing. So, based off what he's wearing, seeing the arm patches, the thing that looks like a badge, an ID card that looks like it's hanging from it, and that back panel on the shirt, it almost looks like a security uniform to me. Not 100% sure about that, but it's either a uniform shirt of something. So it could either be security, could be police. Now, if he was a police officer, I think that would obviously trigger some alarms and make the news. So I don't think it's a police officer, but it could also be a paramedic, because sometimes paramedics have badges on their uniform shirts. A firefighter, sometimes firefighter uniforms can have badges and stuff on them. But even then, if he was a firefighter or a medic, I think that too would have made the news. I don't think he's like pest control or anything like that, or a delivery person, like DoorDash. Like, nobody wears shit like that. The only people who wear uniform shirts that look like that are police, fire, EMS, security. And that's about it. Those are the only people that wear stuff like that. I mean, nothing else is coming to mind. So my guess is this dude probably works security somewhere. So, security companies. Whew, man, security companies are like temp agencies, realistically. That's really what they are like. They are like temp agencies. So they're a specialty temp agency, but they're temp agencies nonetheless. And when you look at some of these very large security companies, they literally hire the same people that you would be finding at a temp agency who's going to be working at some freaking factory or warehouse or something like that. The background checks and the requirements are very, very, very minimal in most cases. And these security companies essentially hire based off whether, realistically, when you really think about it, they hire based off whether or not that person's got a heartbeat and they can sign their name to some documents. That's when you've dealt with this industry long enough and have dealt with people, that's really what it seems like it boils down to. If you got a heartbeat and you can sign your name to some papers. Now that's sad. It really is. It gives the security industry a really bad image. But that's it. That's out there. Now, obviously, it does not appear as though he's an armed security officer, or else he would be brandishing a gun instead of knives. Now, in most places, the requirement to become armed security is not that much higher than unarmed security. So think about the dude down in Florida for Pulse nightclub. That guy was armed security, and he went in and killed a bunch of people in a nightclub. What kind of background checks and processes were done to keep someone like him from going out and doing some crazy shit? But that's something that exists when it comes to private security industries. The standards are they're not very high. It's kind of minimum, and they hire damn near almost anyone. So, and this is going way off topic, but when people bring up ideas like, oh, well, we need more school security, we should put security in the schools, I don't think you understand what the fuck you're asking for right there. You literally want to hire private security companies to work in the schools. No, you do not want that happening all across the nation. No, you don't want big companies doing security in the schools. It is not going to end the way you think it's going to end. It's going to be miserable. It's going to be a lot worse than what you think. I'll end that rant there, and we'll continue on. So we noticed that this guy right here, he's noticed that there's some odd shit going on. He's still walking, he's turned, and he's looking, and he's paying attention to what's going on over here. Other people, and I'll back it up. So he's gotten out. This guy, they're... So this guy, he comes out from here. This guy's right there. Both pretty close. He doesn't seem to notice anything because he keeps going. This guy's got his head turned. He's kind of paying attention to what's going on over there. It's kind of hard to see the dude on the scooter because all these little flag things right there. Back it up. Fucking Abe Lincoln right here, walking down the sidewalk, completely oblivious to what's going on. He's on his cell phone this whole time. We'll back it up even more. So he's out of the car, brandishing the knife right there. There's someone over there, but it's hard to tell if they've noticed at this point or not. Yeah, so Abe Lincoln right here, completely oblivious. He should have had perfect opportunity to see that on his cell phone. So his situational awareness is not very high. This guy does not notice it. Not sure about Scooter Dude. He could notice it, but it's hard to see if his head's turned watching. And it doesn't appear he looks back. This guy's the only dude that seems like he's switched on and is noticing what the hell's going on. We see these people right here. They appear to kind of have their heads turned in that direction. It's anyone's guess if they're actually paying attention to what's going on there or not. So, that's something you need to think about being out in public, is your situational awareness. If your head is, or your face is glued to your phone, your situational awareness is going to be shit. And I fall victim to this too. But there are some people who are just completely oblivious to their surroundings. And they're so involved in their phone that they walk into shit. If you read articles about people who walk off of sidewalks in the traffic, they walk. There's an article I remember reading a long time ago about a girl walking into a fucking fountain. How do you not notice a fountain in front of you and walk the fuck straight into it? And that's just, people walking and odd things happening and it making the news. Now, not every person walking ends up walking into a fountain or something serious. Now, they walk into stuff. They might walk into a wall, walk into a sign, hit a car or something like that. It doesn't result in big injuries. So, obviously no one ever catches wind of it. Where we see the biggest things is with motor vehicles, people driving. And their attention is so focused on the phone, they're not paying attention to the roadway very well. And we end up seeing a lot more automobile accidents because of smart devices being used by the motorists. So the best advice I could give you for maintaining better situational awareness is to put your phone in your pocket and don't fuck with that thing until you get to a more quote-unquote secured area. You're at home. And it really depends on where you work, but at work. Walking on the sidewalk, playing on your phone is not the best thing to do. Now, obviously, if you're using mapping software, trying to figure out where the hell you need to go, yeah, you're going to have your phone out for that. Trying to Google a location of where you need to go. Anything else, you should really make it wait, or else you're not going to pay attention to shit. And when you think about being attacked and stuff like that, think back to the Discovery Channel, Animal Planet. When you watch the shows about the big cats, lions and cheetahs and leopards, who do they go after? They go after the animals they're not paying attention very well. You ever watch videos of people at a zoo and they'll walk up to the glass and turn their back and you'll see that cat in the background? He'll notice that person with their back turned, not paying attention, and they'll crouch real low and they'll start stalking forward real slowly, and then they get close enough, they pounce and they smack the glass. That's what humans do. Humans look for the people who are not paying attention, stalk towards them, and then they pounce. So like these people who say, oh, they came out of nowhere. No, they fucking didn't. They did not teleport down like they're on fucking Star Trek. They were there the whole time. You just didn't notice them because your situational awareness was like a rock. So keep your head on a swivel like this guy. Notice your surroundings and you will have less likely bad things happen to you. All right, so let's back this up. So there's two police officers here. We have Officer Quincy and then the Favala, or whatever it was. So this is the Quincy guy coming up. Now, you could see from this camera angle, this damn knife right here, plain as day. Here comes Officer Quincy, and he's just kind of like waving his arm, like, what the hell, dude? He gets his gun out, continues to back away, and then we lose sight of whatever happens after that. So he beats feet and gets out of there. The Favali guy is coming up on all this from a distance, and then he comes into view. I'll talk more about the taser part later. So remember, there is 60 seconds of pre-event buffer. So pre-event buffer means that although the camera is on, it's not actively recording in the sense that it will be forever saved. It goes through a buffering sequence where for a 30 or 60 second cycle, it records and deletes on a loop, so that when you hit the record button, it includes the first 30 or 60 seconds of what went on before you hit the record button. So that's why you don't have any audio. When the audio kicks in is when he hits the actual record button. So he's coming from a I guess you could say a distance. He's walking and people alert him. So these were the two people that I pointed out earlier who that I noted that they had their heads turned, and it appeared as though they could have been looking at what was going on. I don't see anyone else that looks familiar, but that's them kind of going by. Now, while they're running, I'm not sure. They could be running because they know some bad shit's about to go down and they're trying to get out of there. Here's that dude right there that we saw earlier that seemed completely oblivious to what was going on around him. So these people are pulling out over there. Now he's hit the record button. So where this other officer is, I don't know.
Yo, sir.
But it looks like that's him running. At least the officer.
604.
And then here comes the bad guy right there.
Yo, put it down! Put it down! Put it down!
So, in true fashion,
Yo, put it down!
NYPD,
Put it down! Put it.
and I won't be able to get the timing just right, but
6 portable. Yo, put it down! Put it down!
anyway, he's got a radio in his left hand. And in true fashion, NYPD, it does not seem that hardly any of those dudes believe in using a shoulder mic for their portable radio. That's wrong, in my opinion. I think that portable radios within public safety should have lapel mics or shoulder mics, remote mics, whatever terminology you want to assign to it. They should have the little microphones attached to the radio that look like a long telephone cord on it. Not having those on there, I think, puts you at risk of A, losing your radio in a critical moment, and B, not being able to achieve a good, solid, two-handed grip on your pistol when you need it. So this process this officer's having to follow now is because he doesn't have a lapel mic on the radio, he has to reach down and either, depending on if it has a swivel mount on it or if it's in a pouch, he has to either A, reach down, rotate the radio to disengage the swivel lock, bring it up, talk into it, and then reach down and guide that thing back into the swivel mount and rotate it down to lock it in place. Or if it's in a pouch, he has to reach down, disengage the retention strap or snap, whatever it is, pull radio up, talk into it, put it back down in the pouch, and re-engage the snap or retention strap, whatever. That's a lot of extra movement. And if something happens suddenly and rapidly, is that something that you want to be messing with? Trying to get the right movement to get that radio down into its little pouch or that little swivel mount? No. There have been times where, because things happen very rapidly and suddenly, people drop their radios out of their hand. If you drop your radio out of your hand and you take cover behind some object and your radio's not with you, you might as well have no radio at all. The second problem that arises is when you have a radio in your hand and a gun in the other, and something happens very suddenly and rapidly. Most of the time, people try to put both hands together like they've done in firearms training, but because the radio or a flashlight is in their hand and they haven't trained or practiced for dropping that thing, it's still in their hand. And so they'll try and put two together and they got gun clinking against the radio and they're not even getting a good two-handed grip. With a pistol, because it's a short barrel and you only get 2 points of contact on that, unless you're resting it on something or resting your arms on something, that's it. That's all you've got is 2 points of contact. And so when you take one hand off the gun, you're essentially slashing your accuracy in half. So it makes more sense for law enforcement or security to have lapel mics on the radios. That way, all you got to do is reach up with your free hand, click the little button, talk, let go, and that's it. Now, some people argue, well, lapel mics fall off during fights. Okay, yeah, sure, they can, but your whole radio don't fall off during a fight. That's a pretty given one. That's pretty solid for the most part. Now, there are companies that have products to alleviate these issues. One of them being a company called Mic Loop. And I would strongly suggest look into that company, Mic Loop. I think they offer a pretty good product, so I think that's something that you could go for. If not, you can kind of do like a roll your own kind of thing using either paracord or shock cord and make something that will basically bungee your lapel mic to your uniform. That way, if you do get into a scuffle and that lapel mic clip gets knocked loose, that remote microphone is staying where it's at because it's being held in place by an anchor point.
Put it down!
So he does get rounds. Ooh, crap.
Down! Put it down!
So he does get incapacitating rounds on target. I think they're more mentally incapacitating rounds because this dude goes down, but he's obviously still resisting and in the fight when they go to arrest him. Now, unfortunately, they don't provide any additional footage. They don't show the struggling or the apprehension part. Excuse me. Got I ate lunch a little while ago and had some jalapenos on the side. It's starting to get to me. But in the slideshow, it talked about they were struggling to get this guy under control, get him apprehended, and a sergeant had to come over there and deploy taser on him. This is called arrest under power when you look at the training curriculum provided by Axon, or Taser International, what they used to be called. When a person is on the ground and they're struggling, they're resisting, they got their arms up under their torso and they're refusing to bring them out, instead of sitting there and struggling with them that entire time and playing this tug-of-war game, shoot them with a taser. Achieve NMI, neuromuscular incapacitation. You achieve NMI, they're not controlling those limbs anymore. You are. But the problem with, it's not the problem with that, it's a problem with training and that it's not done effectively. So there's been several videos where officers will deploy taser within a close range. And of course you hear the loud cackle on the taser, which anytime you hear the loud cackle of the taser, that's usually indicative that you don't have a good connection. Taser should be running a lot quieter if you have good probe connections. So instead of hearing the ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta, you should hear more of a ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. Should be a little bit more quieter sounding. If you do an arc on the taser, you do a test cycle on it, that sound that you hear when you do that test cycle, you should not hear that when you're actually tasing someone. It should sound more subdued than that. Like you still hear the same pulse rate and everything, but it should not be as loud. So these videos where they fire close proximity, a lot of that has to do with clothing disconnects and stuff. But even when they do fire close proximity and you don't hear the loud cackle, but they're still fighting, they're still controlling themselves, that's indicative that although you do have good probe, not placement, but you have both probes going in, they're too close to each other. So if the probes are too close to each other, that's just one and the same as taking the cartridge off and drive stunning someone. All you're doing at that point is delivering pain to them. The key to achieving NMI is getting the probes to spread out, have some distance between them. So in these close proximity firings, what you have to remember to do is you fire into one area, let those probes hit close to each other, because it's going to happen. You're so close to the person. If you're at bad breath distance, I mean, pretty much when those probes coming out of that cartridge, they're going to land in the person with the same amount of space between them as what is with the way they sit in the cartridge itself. And again, like I said, that all that does is cause pain. It doesn't achieve an MI. So you fire close, let those two probes hit close together. Then you take the gun, and then you ram the gun to a further point away from the probes. Complete the cycle, a follow-up drive stun. That will complete the circuit. That will achieve NMI. So you're on the ground, you are wrestling with someone, take the taser, you can fire it high into their back and then ram the gun down into their butt area, or you can fire the probes into the butt area and ram the gun into their upper back area. It doesn't matter which way you do it, just so long as you get spreadage of those contact points to be able to achieve NMI. This is a tactic that I've used before. I like it. because it's effective, especially if you're wrestling around on the ground, and some of the clothing is more taut across the body and everything. You can get really good probe hits on there and not be too worried about clothing disconnects or anything like that. And then once you know you got those 2 probes in and they're solid, man, you just ram that gun right into them. And if there's thick clothing or anything like that, or baggy clothing, the pressure of you pressing that gun into it is going to collapse that space, and you're going to get an arc through the gun, or from the gun through their clothing into their body. And you're going to get that 3-point contact and achieve NMI at that point. Unfortunately, I just think that maybe some people just either A, aren't paying attention enough in their training classes, because I don't see this being done often enough, or it's a problem with the training classes in that they're not conducting training as properly as they should. And I'm going to put blame on Axon for these classes not being taught properly as they should, because the damn cartridges, even the training cartridges, are so fucking expensive. It's really almost cost prohibitive to do a taser class because the cartridges are so damn high. I mean, it's almost damn near $50 a shot with the cartridges, pretty much. So that's one fucking shot. I mean, imagine your bullets for your gun, $50 a round. Like, yeah. If you look at it that way, you sure as shit ain't gonna be shooting a whole lot during firearms qualification, now are you? No, you're not. So when cartridges cost that much, of course agencies can afford to have officers go through a bunch of cartridges in training. But that's what you need to have happen in taser training. You need those repetitions in place. I've always thought that the instructor class for taser should be the user class. Not all the PowerPoint bullshit, like take that stupid shit out. But the drills and the evolutions and the amount of times that you fire cartridges in that instructor class, that should be within the user class. You should go through 10 to 15 cartridges per person, realistically, to get those evolutions in as good as possible. I think that's all I got. If you like what you hear and see, go ahead and give me a like and a share. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more Monday quarterback videos. Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense, thank you for watching.